There we go. Seems like my mic is working. Awesome. Switch it on up. Hey everyone! How are we all doing today? Slightly darker. There we go. Happy Portfolio Day, everyone. Been awesome to see everyone sharing their portfolio on Twitter and all that good stuff. Been very interesting. Like, Portfolio Day to me is, yeah, just very interesting to see like a bunch of new people that I haven't discovered yet. So yeah, it's awesome to see everyone sharing their work, doing all the good stuff. Morning, Tim! I just had a look at your work, Sia. Or like your little post. Of course I know about your work. Just gave it a little cheeky retweet as well. Hope you get some good traction, get some good visibility on it. Scott's in the chat as well. Hey, Scott! We were late again with the whole Beyond Extend, and normally we try to do like portfolio, what is it? Like portfolio, like retweets, you know, if they tag us with Beyond Extend, but we completely whiffed that one again. But I guess there's another one in like a couple of months again, so yeah, no big deal. No big deal. Had some coworkers retweet it. Ah, that's awesome. It's good to hear that you're getting all the support. See ya. Hiya, Owls. Hi, Keraf. Hiya, Sarah. Hi, Jeremiah. How are we all doing? Let's make sure I got everything set up. Cool. Jeremiah's doing good. Yeah, doing good as well. Just getting warmed up. I was thinking a little bit about the structure, about portfolio reviews again. So I made like a little cheeky post-it note that I added on my drawing tablet. I don't know if you can read it. Yeah. Just a little bit of structure. I actually need to kind of put this down on my little notepad here, so that every time when I do a portfolio review, there's kind of like a little bit of a structure into it. So, no way you're tiny. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot that it's not like the big screen. Well, maybe. First impressions. How well do you sell your work? Going deep on one project, best versus worst, and then recap. That's what it says. You're getting an insight into my node brain. I have like a bunch of these lying around. One here, got a bunch of green ones as well. Got a bunch of these yellow ones. I'm surrounded by freaking post-it notes. Very excited to see the portfolios. Yeah, me too. A bunch of people I've already kind of seen, you know, kind of keep track, or like try to keep track of everyone. Oh, John, you forgot again. Oh no. Almost here. We're still here anyway. All right. Should we get started? I hope that I can do at least 3. I'm hoping for more. Who did we say? So George, Hillard, and then Jack. So those are the first 3. But I've backed up all the other ones to see how far we get, because it's also portfolio day, you know, so we'll make it a little bit longer. Yep, it is once a month, Jeremiah. Thank you for asking. So it's always the second Tuesday of the month. That's what I try to schedule it as. Second Tuesday of the month. All right. Shall we go? Shall we go into it? First up, George, environment artist at Saber Interactive Porto. Hi, George. I saw that you joined the chat as well. Feel free to give any additional notes if I'm missing something, or if you just want like a little bit more of an explanation on certain things, right? Feel free to shout that out. And this also for other people in the chat too. Feel free to do that if you want to. And then we can get started. So George, living in Portugal, very nice. First impressions, environment art, that's all I'm seeing here. I remember having a look at this ages ago. So this is probably going to be a little bit quicker than before, because I can already tell that it's time to optimize your portfolio and like really optimize it to higher quality than more stuff on it, right? I haven't looked at any of them deeper, and it's been a bit too long ago to actually tell what's in these, right? But from just the pure thumbnails, right? I would cut these two. Maybe even in comparison, think about this one? Question mark? Right? And like with cutting, obviously I mean hiding it from your portfolio. The main thing is you should always aim for the highest quality rather than having more stuff on your portfolio. And I think this one from the thumbnail looks awesome. This one from the thumbnail looks awesome. And then having those potentially 3 things on there is probably going to be more than enough. The latest two look, yeah. It's also because, this is also the thing, because the jump in quality is so drastic, right? Especially from this one to this one. I would just honestly cut them out. And the team one might depend on what he done in the challenge. Yeah, I think so too. But just purely basing it on the thumbnails, I would cut these 2 out, and then potentially the third one as well. But that one is more up to you, I would say. But these 2 can definitely go. Because also what I want to talk about in like the structural way, right? Like we got the first impressions out of the way, is I wanna see how well you sell yourself and your work. And I think if we then look at these 2, right? Like these 2 on the left, like they look awesome. You know, the thumbnails there, you kind of get like a close-up shot, right? So you're kind of given an indication of like, hey, I can do details. Like I can do detail, but I can also do environment stuff. Right? That's kind of what this is showing. And I think it's awesome that you kind of have this like variation in your portfolio. So very good job on that. Let's have a look at some of this other stuff then, right? Professional work, real time, Blender. Yeah, I think so. When it comes to these, you can do the same thing, right? Like really optimize like all the stuff. So you could honestly have all personal and then professional. Right? Like those could be like the 3 categories. And then just base them on that. I think even at this point, it's maybe not even worth it to make a purely professional one, because there's only 1 picture in it. And at this time, I would probably just keep it more to just all, because it only fills up 1 line anyway, especially when you're going to do the cuts to your portfolio. Right? So I would definitely cut it out. Like, cut out those 2 things for sure, and then just have like 1 filter that is like, this is my landing page, this is all my work, right? Enjoy the high quality stuff that I'm offering. So you could definitely do it that way. And then once you start building up more pieces, let's say once you got 3 in every category, then you can start like splitting it up in this way, where you have like multiple categories. But right now, it kind of feels like a waste when we are looking at professional work and it's only one thing. Even when the thumbnail itself says it too, right? Like Saber Interactive is on the label and you work at Saber Interactive, so people can make that link. Yeah. So yeah, I think in this case, just the all filter is going to be good. Let's keep up with the chat as well, shall we? My question is, for applying to jobs, is it enough despite the quality? No. Like you always want to focus on quality over quantity. Because the thing what people are going to do is, if we're looking at this portfolio, by and large, like the thing that will stand out is like, wow, I love this. Like, I love the look of this, right? I want to have a look at this. But also, uh-oh, what's happening with this one? Right? Because people usually mostly look at it in the reference of like you applying for a specific job. In this case, I'm assuming environment artist. So then this kind of stuff is more like motion graphic-y, more like experimental artistically, and it kind of misses the mark a little bit, right? And people will remember the best piece and the worst piece. So what you want to do, if you have like your bar, so this is the best piece and then this is the worst piece. Let's say this is the bar now, right? What you want to do is you want to put the low end of that bar as high as possible, so that you get like a much more consistent and higher quality feeling portfolio overall. So that's why we try to limit the amount of lower quality stuff that we show to a certain degree, right? Like, you could make the case where maybe you still want to keep this one up because it's still relevant. That would be fine too. But I would probably aim more towards like the higher quality spectrum than having more work on there. If you have weaker stuff, there might be a question what quality you produce. Yeah, exactly, Scott. That's also one of the questions, right? But it is only good stuff, then they will more likely assume that the quality bar. Yeah. Just averaging everything out, right? Like we did with the quality example here. Where you wanna show that you can output like a certain consistency. And over time, the more stuff you put out there, the better or like more concise that quality bar is gonna be, right? And then over time, I think the thing, like, all of this mostly applies to like juniors or just trying to get in, because I think if you're, let's say you're a senior, right, and you've worked on like multiple titles, and then you have like all of this stuff on display, then we're talking about something different, because people already know that you have a proven track record, so they won't scrutinize you for the artistic stuff where you were just experimenting. Right? So also keep that in mind. Cool. Let's have a look at this one, actually, because I've already seen the door a couple of times, right? But we'll have a quick scan through. Let's have a look at the description here as well. It's hard to describe 2 years of work. Yep, definitely is. My tasks include a lot of world building and level design, as well as set dressing. Okay. So it was just building the worlds themselves. Looks nice though. Got some killer shots here. I also think it's not too many. So it's a very good and concise post, you know? Like just showing the variation that you did, like on the job. Very good way of approaching it. And then having like a little interesting gameplay overview here. It's good. Yeah, I love it. Very concise presentation. Very good. Obviously, the presentation here is usually mostly dictated by the companies themselves because they have a template for the most part. But still, very clean, to the point. Like it. Let's have a look at this one. Got a couple of zoomed in shots. These two, they're kind of the same thing, or like mostly, right? I know that there's like a slight variation, but it's just you're almost looking at the same thing. So I would probably cut one of those out, like optimize the whole portfolio a little bit. And yeah, also, this is my personal opinion. I don't think putting your references on here is necessary. I know why you do it, but I don't think it's worth it. Like, it's not really adding value to your portfolio, so I would probably cut this out. The main thing why you would want to do it is to showcase that you can stay true to the references that you found, right? But I think people can make a judgment call on that without having to see the reference. Right? Because more experienced artists, they're gonna feel out if something's wrong or not. So I would probably cut this one out. However, everything that I say in these streams, if you have a very good reason to keep it in there, feel free to do so as well, right? Because this is my opinion, and I wanna if there's a good reason to have it there, then keep it in. Also, those bottles look too small. Yeah, that's also one thing that I wanted to point out. If you're doing a detail shot like this, it needs to look really good, right? And first of all, what I thought is not really that the bottles feel too small when I was scrolling through, but that there's almost like no shadow information. Like there's no lighting information, right? Yeah, no shadows too. Exactly. George is saying that in the chat as well. And yeah, maybe the bottles are too small. I didn't even pick up on that, so that's a good shout, Scott. I'll give you a secret, and this is not only for you, George. But just in general, if you present something on your portfolio, you get to control where people are gonna look. So in this case, let's say you think it's a nice shot, but you are aware of the issues, but don't have time or whatever reason that you can go back to it, don't post it in your portfolio. Because it's the same thing as your entire portfolio again, right? Like this whole post is basically, we're doing the same value judgment of like, what is the highest quality screenshot and what is the lowest quality screenshot. And then if glaring issues like this, like no shadow, stand out, then people are going to find that weird and start questioning it, right? So I think in this case, you could either fix/remove, right? That's usually the choice that you have in this situation. But yeah. I think for me, it's mostly the shadow. I didn't even pick up like the scale of the bottles, but can definitely be fixed as well. Yeah, that was just like a way to say like you have control over what you show, and what you show will be scrutinized, right? So if there is something, if there is, like for example, I give an example about some of my environments. If there's like a dirty prop in there, meaning I did a quick UV, I couldn't be bothered, and I just slapped a texture on it because I'm gonna put it in the background, that's not the prop that I'm gonna do as like a breakdown prop, right? I'm just gonna not show that because it's gonna be in the background anyway, and just show off the stuff where you put in like a lot of time, a lot of effort, and then show that off, right? Good is show, bad is hide. Exactly, George. Yeah, cool stuff though. I like the presentation of it. The thumbnail is also really good. It like immediately captures that, right? Very high quality looking just by the thumbnail itself, which is usually a good sign. And then I think you did a very good job of just presenting it as well. Clean renders. We talked about these two that kind of have the same similar vibe. Probably get rid of those as well. Oh, this is an interesting one. We didn't even look at this one. Same is happening here, right? I'm gonna point out the biggest mistake, which will definitely be called out, and it's this. Right? Like, that is gonna be the biggest issue when you show this stuff off. There's just like a whole bunch of empty space that is currently not being used. Unless I'm completely missing something, but this is all like padding, so that's not used. So that is a huge red flag. I would definitely go back and try to fix this, even though it's gonna be annoying because yeah, you might have to like redo like a bunch of stuff. Yeah, this is not gonna show well. The reason why is because we work with games, right? And performance is still the biggest bottleneck, right? Like, we need to kind of squeeze every last bit of optimization out of every prop that we can. And having a giant open space on your UVs, this is a 4K, right? So what we're technically throwing out is like a free 2K map in this empty space. That's how you can look at it. Like, that's just gone. Like, we're not even using that. And a 2K map is, you can do a lot of stuff with a 2K map. So think about it in that way, where you're leaving like a bunch of stuff on the table. What probably was the case is that you're trying to work within texel density, right? But it's better to make the most of your UVs and then push the texel density around a little bit than to like stay 100% accurate to the texel density. Again, my opinion, there's obviously like a trade-off there, but you can definitely fill up this space a little bit more. Oh, also, once we talked about this point, for your screenshots, add your name to it. Name plus email, right? Very subtle. The reason why you should do this is whenever someone saves this on their Pinterest because they think it's an awesome looking door, like, your name will still be attached to the image. Because sometimes links get broken, or let's say you tend to republish this, like, that connection is severed, right? So adding your name and email on the template as like a slide thing is gonna help you. But yeah, clean presentation. For the rest of it, we got all the maps here as well. Yeah, good stuff, George. Good stuff. Definitely have a look at this open area. That's definitely like the most glaring issue out of this entire post. Even above this little screenshot here. This is an easy fix. The other one is going to take a little bit more time. But yeah. Great stuff on the prop itself, though. This looks awesome. Awesome. Maybe you're lucky. Maybe... Sometimes it will break like all the manual stuff that you've done on top, but sometimes it's very good at retaining it. So maybe you get lucky with that. Best of luck, George. Cool. And then just as a little recap, let's have a little space here. So better be a back on that door. So number one, optimize. right? Or let's say quality versus quantity, right? That's going to be the main thing that's going to apply here. Number 2 is going to be ease of use. Or probably, because that's the filter stuff, right? Like when you start adding filters but there's no need, I call that like ease of use, because you're not getting in the way of people using your portfolio and like browsing through your art. And then the third one is probably going to be like UV issue there, right? That's probably the biggest one. Let's say UV issue plus presentation tweaks. With presentation tweaks, I mean the little name that you add to it, and then also optimizing the amount of images that you had in that post. You can probably get rid of like 1 or 2, as well as the reference that can also go. So that's gonna make that's gonna help the ease of use as well, because you're not adding too much stuff onto the visual side when it comes to presenting your work again. So yeah, nice little 3-point recap there for you. It'll hopefully help you with getting this all done. Yeah, good stuff, George. Thank you for posting your portfolio as well, and good luck on the job hunt. I don't know if you're looking for a job, but I just assumed so. Good stuff. Thanks for the insight, Tim. No worries. Thank you so much. Dots is here as well. The dots is, why is it preferred for the props of the environment to be presented in different posts rather than the main post? Oh, was that in reference to like a previous comment? Let me just have a look. I'm currently working on a way bigger quality project than what I currently have, but if I delete the other projects that are weaker, I only have the one left. What do you suggest to do here? Just have the one. You know, like it's honestly very simple. If the one is like significantly weaker than the other one, just have the one. Because that one is gonna do a way better job of convincing potential recruiters to hire you than having 2, but one is the weaker link. Right? Where they can easily discredit you based on one post, you want to minimize the risk when it comes to it. That's the way that I look at it. Because you're basically throwing everything on the plate, and if they don't like anything that you put in front of them, they're going to remember that way more than all the good stuff, right? So you kind of have to like trim out all the fat, make it a lean portfolio if you can. Don't tell Saber. Oh, sorry, George. It's all live. I can't go back. Hey, Aloya. How are you? I'm doing good. Thank you. I wanted to ask where I can send my portfolio under review if I'm not a Patreon subscriber. So this session is honestly like pretty full because we have 6 portfolios here. Maybe the next one, I'll see if I can add some people in there, but I give front row seats to people that are from the community. Let me share you the link though for the portfolio reviews. I thought I had forms, portfolio reviews. Oh man, this needs to be updated. Okay. Let's just add. That's where you can put it in if you wanted to. Cool. Next up, let's go with Hillard. Hillard is from Tel Aviv, Israel. Environment artist over here. First impression, really solid work. Actually, this one is interesting. I gravitate the most. This is like very subjective, right? Like I gravitate the most towards this one. Because of the lighting, right? There's something interesting happening, and like the way you presented the thumbnail is looking really good. And then potentially second, I want to check this one out because it has such a unique kind of look to it. And then we're probably gonna skip over to this area here. And honestly, I'm afraid of this one. I think this one might have been the most outdated one, so we'll have a look. But yeah, that's my first impression. So first one I want to click here, then check out this one, and then maybe go all the way over here to check out these other two. But that's the first impression. 2 and 1 for me. Oh, Scott is saying he goes the opposite way, so like this one first, and then this one as well. Yep. Yeah, you can definitely feel that the weight is around here. Right? Just by the thumbnails themselves. So let's have a look if it actually holds up once we start looking into it. But I think before we do that, like I think it's about the presentation here, right? That's why I do this kind of exercise where I'm drawn to. And it's purely because we got like a kick-ass thumbnail over here where you have like some nice roughness variation and like the amount of detail that you can see there. I would love to see what's hidden inside of it. And then yeah, same for this one because you have the contrast of the shape is so strong with this, right? You have like all of this contrasted to like a normal sky. Does a very good job of selling itself. Whereas if we compare it here, the same thing is not happening here, right? It's kind of just flowing with the mountain in the back. So it's really not standing out as much. And also we're getting this large view, which usually isn't that exciting compared to something that's like filled with detail and like we can expect it up close. So that's something to keep in mind. And I think if you zoomed in on the second in the row, I bet it would pop out more. Yeah, that's also what Scott is mentioning too, where if you put like a zoomed in shot in here, like as the thumbnail, right? Maybe do... I don't know, let's do like a quick thumbnail exercise, right? From the same shot. Do something like that where you have like a nice formation of rocks. Maybe there's like a tree in the foreground and then you have like this nice little structure on the left. Could be very interesting to look at. Let's have a look, shall we? So I'm gonna try to pick... I'm gonna start with this one. I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. Oh, this is just a one post? Okay. This is from 2 years ago. This is easy. Just cut this out. Like, this doesn't hold up to like the rest of your portfolio. Just by this entire lineup. Yeah. Like this is easy. Just cut this one out. Cut. Then we'll have a look at some of the other ones. Maybe start with this one. Jack is asking in the chat, will the stream be viewable after it's over? Yes, it will, Jack. It definitely will. Oh, this one's cool as well. Because you got some nice contrast going on here. With like the shadows versus like the highlights. That's a cool shot. Very cool. These presentations are also very clean. I like it. Very clean presentations. The only thing that I would switch up here, as we're starting to talk about like the feedback again, is I would make this like number 1 so that you have that main screenshot. and then have like all these 3 or 4, and then do the breakdown, right? Because now we're kind of, the video is auto starting and it's kind of like, I want to see more of this awesome thing before I start looking at the breakdown. So probably move this down. So then people can look at the awesome work, and then if they're interested, they can keep scrolling down and actually look at how you broke things down. And that's gonna give like a lot of value for people that were already interested in this portfolio piece anyway, right? Because it also gives people an option that are not interested in this technical breakdown to just skip out if they don't watch it, right? But now you're kind of forcing them to. So start with the art first and then do the breakdown stuff. That's usually how it works. So art and then breakdown. That's kind of the flow of things, right? You kind of have to, you want to give people like some treats before they go to like the more slower breakdown stuff where you show how you've done things. Yeah, these shots are cool. I think what you could have done is gone a little bit further with the presentation of them. Like you've kind of done that with the grass, but the texture of the floor like is actually just like a normal checker map, right? What you could have done instead is just have like just dirt, like Megascan's dirt. Slap that on the floor, and you got something really nice looking, you know, and then the grass blends in well as well. Or you could just keep it clean, right, and then have the grass on top of it. That could also be an option. There's a lot of people that do it like really well. But I think this is supposed to look like dirt, but it's not. So it kind of feels like you've been a little bit lazy with the whole presentation, and you were kind of like, okay, this is good enough, you know. Kind of feels like a half measure. If that makes sense. Details looking good. Again, like when you're doing these presentations, like just your name plus email, right? Like leave contact information. It doesn't have to be this corner. You can also leave it in another corner as well. It's like a slight thing. Just make it easy for people to reach out to you. As easy as possible. RGB masks. That's cool. Screenshot from... Screenshot. I know this is ridiculous, but it's kind of the same as a CV, right? You gotta be careful with the spelling. It's minor mistakes, but honestly, like sometimes people trip over that stuff. Kit preview. But the work here is awesome, man. I love this shot because also you can't really see too much of like the dirt. But like the stones themselves are kick-ass. Great job on those. Great stuff. Going over to the next thing. Continuing the presentation. I love this presentation, by the way. Like, that's awesome. Just the 3 of them with like the AO and the shadows. Like, there's something that works really well as like a very professional presentation. I think if you want to level it up slightly, and this is a nitpick, like scale these down, like these outer ones, just a little bit, and then have the most prominent one in the middle, so that you get like biggest one in the middle, and then like smaller ones to the side, kind of thing. Right? Makes it look a bit more dynamic. Yeah, this is good stuff. I like this presentation. Very nice shot as well. Okay, this is an interesting one. I love I love all these shots in here. Right? Like maybe there's a small nitpicks if everything is like wide frame, like make everything wide frame, right? But that's such a nitpick. I do not love the last image here though. It's for the same reason, right? Like for the same reason that we kind of discussed with the last person with George, is because you're leaving like a whole bunch of stuff just empty. And these sections are just waste. Right? Like this section as well, just nothing there. So you're almost throwing out like half of your entire UV space. Try to fill it up a little bit more if you're doing a presentation like this, or don't show it off, right? Because then no one's really gonna question it. But now because you present it, you're putting extra attention to it, and yeah, then you basically give people the option to scrutinize it. So be careful when you do so. Oh, this is combined for presentation? Wait, so maybe this is not like an actual texture atlas? Combined for presentation. But then still, even if this is like an atlas, right? Let's assume that this is like an atlas. You're still leaving out like a bunch of stuff. So be careful with that. Actually have a look. Because if you only use them for scattering, which might be the case, right? Because they're kind of embedded with the texture itself, then you're all right, sorta. But if you're going through the trouble of making atlases like this, why not make them game ready anyway, right? It takes like minimal effort, and it allows you to reuse them in the future as well for something else. Like if you want to make actual 3D foliage. Yeah, good stuff though. Love the presentation of this one. Very good, very clean. Love it. Let's pick the last one. What is this for? Think Tank Online Intermediate Final Term Project. Nice. Okay. Interesting types of presentation here. I think you can easily cut out some of these, right? Like some of these shots can easily be cut out. Like this one looks freaking amazing. I love this shot. Just because the roughness is coming back at like a nice angle, you know, it presented really nice. But that also means that this one, meh, kind of can do without. So I would probably cut this one. Because it's kind of the same deal, but you're focusing on like probably like a less interesting part of the environment, just like a bit of torn wall. I don't know. I think you picked out like a very interesting thing to focus on with the other screenshot down there. So just keep that one. Cut this one out. Hello, why can't I scroll here though, please? Did I break it? Oh, whatever. Also, for this one, I know that it might be a paid feature, but it's because you've actually displayed it in other portfolio pieces. Have this as like an autoplay. One of the embedded videos within ArtStation, right? So have it as autoplay. Because now you're adding an additional step, right? And it's just awkward. Rest of this post is looking really nice. Maybe potentially think about this one cutting out as well. Yeah, this one is great. I love this shot. One is cool too. And you can apply some of the same things that we talked about, right? Where you wanna add your name and your email address, your contact information on there as well. But yeah, very cool stuff. Just gonna have a look at this one. Just use mega scans for the rocks. Yeah, I think on this one, my gut feeling is that I want to see like a more interesting lighting setup, because right now it kind of feels like really flat, like really uniquely lit, or like unifyingly lit, where it's just like you got like the orange colored lighting, not too much contrast going on. It kind of makes the whole thing like feel very flat. Not a big fan of this one, gotta say. I think this is probably, from the stuff that we looked at, it's probably the weaker in the terms that is presented at this point. Well, apart from the gun, but I wasn't counting that one. But yeah, I think. Yeah, let's do a little recap, right? I was just mulling through my thoughts there. So, little recap over here. Little recap. Number one is, oh, probably pick better thumbnails, right? For like 1 and 2. Like 1 and 2. Pick more interesting thumbnails. More interesting thumbnails. Number 2 is clean up the presentation. Some of them, where you got too many shots in some of them. The order of the one with the stone arch was kind of weird. Simple things, you know, like simple tweaks where you can really level up like how your presentation and like portfolio flows through the whole thing. So yeah, think about flow. And also, what was the other thing that we discussed? Yeah, it was like smaller stuff, right? Like the name thingy again. And then probably for number 2 over here, like think about a relight. Like right now it feels like really flat. Oh, also the dirt on the presentation, right? For like the stone arches. That can be like such an easy win and can really level it up to like the next level. Because you've done the grass already, right? It would kind of just fit, like make the entire thing more cohesive. So yeah, number 3. Relight number 2. That would be an easy win. And also, yeah, I'm gonna add like a bonus one. Like, just cut this one, right? Cut the gun. That's definitely by far the weakest link on this portfolio. Even though I think you were trying to show it off as like, hey, I don't only do environment stuff, but I also do props. But I think this props is not enough to convince them that you can do props really well and consistent for them to kind of consider you for a prop artist, right? Plus, the stuff that you're doing on the environment art site looks like way better than that prop. So yeah, cut that gun out. Or hide it for now, and then maybe if you do more props, you can open up the prop category again. Yeah, I hope that helped, Hillard. Thank you so much for sharing your portfolio. Oh, Jack is gonna check back later. Appreciate the portfolio feedback stream. No worries. Happy to help. Next up, we're gonna see if I can go like a little bit quicker or maybe spend less time on like some stuff. Next up, Jack. Oh, Jack is the person that just had to leave as well. So have a look at your portfolio, buddy. Got the team challenge in here. Love it. Got some other interesting things happening. I think from what I know, I think the first impression is that the thumbnails could definitely be improved. Just because, I mean, it's not creating that excitement that I'm looking for, right? Like, I think this one is getting here, but if I remember all the screenshots that you guys took, there's probably some more interesting, like, up-close detailed stuff. And then you can click on it, and then you get, like, a wider zoom again of everything. And up here, like, just having this little flask in the center, probably not the most important thing, or, like, most interesting thing to look at. You could potentially have something where you look at it from above, right? And then have like the little flask, and then you could have like the papers kind of thing, like next to it. Right, so try to create like something a bit more dynamic with the stuff that you already have. Could be more interesting, that you really zoom in on like the most interesting parts, because you also have that nice highlight. Maybe that's gonna look nice if you look at it from like another angle. And also get more contrast, right? Like more interesting, like specular contrast, especially on this one. Yeah. You can kind of apply that to the other pieces as well. Especially this one. I think we'll have a look at the prop itself, but you can already tell that this is going to be the weak link in your portfolio, or like you get like a good indication that this is the weak link in your portfolio. And the thumbnail is not really doing well enough to hide the fact that that's going to be the case, right? So think about it that way. And then yeah, I'll have a look at this one. I think we can maybe find like an interesting shot. Yeah, let's have a look. So I'm gonna start with this one. Yep, just a little ticket booth. Oh, honestly? Is that just... Screen is so dark. Yeah, honestly, you can do something really cool with this shot and use that as a thumbnail. You know? It's kind of a shame looking at this now that you kind of missed like a good opportunity to do something like really horror vibey with that. Because honestly, this as a thumbnail, what would you pick? Like almost something like that, right? That could almost look like a painting, just the way that it's kind of lit. And then maybe you could have like the red eyes, like maybe more of them in the back. You really want to drive that home, right? And maybe have them like less visible as well, so that you really get that depth effect. Yeah, this could be like an awesome thumbnail, honestly, because I love the way that you lit it here. It has a very like soft kind of painterly feel to it. So, yeah. Plus, it's also one prop, right? So we can't really go out and like take a couple of different angles. Like it's always gonna be that singular prop. So we kind of have to do it with what we have. But you've done a great job on lighting it here. So much love on that. In the presentation, this is good. I'm a stickler for this. Like, don't do this font. Just pick like a very standard font. This is a pet peeve of mine, so make sure that you keep that into account. Because I know what you're doing here, right? Because that's kind of the font that you're using on the main ticket booth as well. But like for anything presentation-wise, just pick a clean font. You know, like don't go too crazy with like all these Western kind of cowboy fonts. I don't know. Possibly a pet peeve of mine, but hey. Well, it's definitely a pet peeve of mine. Let me tell you that. Something to look for. Something to possibly change. I don't think you need this. This can potentially be cut. Right? It's an interesting idea why you want to show this off, because you have the dimensions on there, but I don't think it's needed. Because what you're gonna do is, well, what people usually do is they look at a ticket booth and they kind of know that this is gonna be like fit for the character anyway, right? And also, you painting on top of it with this is not really lending any credibility to it, if you know what I mean. There's interesting presentation that you can potentially do where you have like a fully matte cap gray character that you put like side by side and then render it in the scene. That can potentially be like an interesting approach. But yeah, I don't think this is doing anything for this post right now in this state. Honestly, gotta give it to you, not as bad as I was expecting it. I think the thumbnail is actually way worse than the actual work. So yeah, it's kind of setting a low expectation, and then the work is actually pretty good. That's what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I'm gonna come back on my first comment that you're probably gonna have to cut that out, because I don't think so. Like, the same can be adjusted here, right? Like, just get rid of this font, just make it that thumbnail that we spoke about before, and this actually can be like a very good portfolio piece, just for a simple prop. I think, yeah, I walk back on that statement easily. That could be like a very good prop now. So great job. Okay. Oh, a little animation going on. The temple video. This is an interesting one, because I feel like this is kind of like a cool presentation, even though like the assets themselves, like you have a clash between elements here, right? So this is something like medieval, and then the rest of the pillars is more like Roman, and then you get these like Japanese inspired or like just Asian inspired like lanterns, and it's just a clash of a whole bunch of stuff. So that would definitely be something to look into. However, what I was gonna say is that I like this presentation more than just the presentation that we have down here with all the metal, because it is metal on metal, right? Like it doesn't really look good, and like if you have metal on metal, usually it makes it feel like really cheap 3D, unless the metal is like actually really well rendered. And I honestly don't think that, especially for the floor, that's the case here. So I would potentially look at maybe trying to do something more with like that sandstone and kind of keep it in the thematic that you set with your initial shots, right? I think there could be something very interesting there. Yeah. Or what you could do is pick like a Megascans like texture, just slap it on the floor, and then render this on top of it, right? Like as a very quick thing. Yeah. So that's what I would say about this one, is the consistency of all the elements needs to match up a bit better, but then also the lighting can be a little bit more improved. I would probably work with a night scene could be very interesting here, because you got the two lanterns, right, that cast light. Or you could go the other way and just have natural light, like fill the space up a little bit more. Boosting lumen and how it spreads around in the scene could definitely help here. Yeah, I think you can get some quick wins here with the presentation of it. Right, and then let's have a look at this one. the Warlock study. Search for the star. Contest. A bunch of breakdowns. The gate in the back as well. I would honestly cut the gate out from this one. I don't think it really adds too much to this portfolio piece. You know what I mean? Like, it's more of like a background dressing, and I think the focus should be on like all the cool props and details that you put into the actual room itself. So potentially cut this one. That is your weakest link currently. And then just keep like some of these shots, right? Like these shots, there's some interesting stuff happening here. This stuff is looking cool. This one is cool, where they're playing with the depth of field as well. We break down. Yeah. I think you can really, with these sort of presentations, you can really optimize the way that they look, right? In terms of like how you're presenting these props, because now it's just like 4 renders and you just put them in like a quadrant, right? And then call it kind of done. But I think if you want to take it to the next level, you have to think about how you want to present them, and also what kind of information that you want to convey to the people that are looking at it too, right? Where you can have these detailed lighting shots, and then also this more clear shot as well, even though I don't think you need this one. But you can just have a collage of 3 of them, right? Where like one of them is, let's see, one of them is a detail shot, like the detail lighting. And then one of them is just a final prop, right? That's like well lit. So final. And then you have another one, which is the wireframe. And that's going to look more interesting than just like these 4 raw things all at the same time. And like really think about the presentation of things, right? Where maybe what would be handy if you're showing a wireframe shot is that you also have like a triangle count or a poly count in the top right. And also take it a little bit farther when you're trying to render these individual assets by thinking about like a 3-point light setup to keep it really simple. And just doing like a little bit more to the presentation, right? And like present your stuff in a professional manner. Because I feel like this presentation, it has that feeling of like, oh, I need to do breakdown shots, so I'm just gonna compile them in like a quadrant, and it's like the easiest solution, but it doesn't really look that good, right? So yeah, try to think about the presentation a bit more than we're doing here. And the same can be applied here as well. Yeah. Because honestly, like these props are definitely worth showing off. It's just the presentation of it doesn't inspire much, right? If I were to say something about it. Yeah. And then let's have a look at this one, shall we? I'm kind of curious because I've seen some of these posts. Yeah, okay. So we got like a little bit of a breakdown here. Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, like this is pretty good. Where you have like all the stuff that you kind of need in like one concise thing, right? It's it's fine tuning this a bit more, but you got all the information here, right? You just gotta watch out for, again, like the font, right? It's a little bit too fat. You can make it like very simple, quite minimalistic. And then also think about the presentation, right? Like, this is quite interesting, but we probably want to see it like a little bit bigger. And do we really need to see decimated low poly? Maybe not. Maybe not. Well, maybe you do if you want to do the wireframe, right? But yeah. This is definitely way better than we've seen before though, so this is already like a level up. It's all about the details, right? That's what I'm trying to hammer home, is like just all the details. But these, I love these presentations. Like these, very clean, you know, this is the stuff that I worked on. It's on a white background. Yeah. It's just very clean and simple and like nicely presented. So I love these shots. Great job. Obviously the thing itself is looking good. I can make the same comment of maybe adding the ArtStation video post here, right? That we have like an auto-playing thing happening. Yeah. Very good stuff, Jack. Like, yeah, overall very good. I know this is the thing, like, I've been scrutinizing this a lot, right? But like the work here on display is very good. And there's also like a nice gradient in the progress as well, but not too far out of the spectrum to where I want to see you cut stuff on your portfolio. That means that you're very consistent when it comes to the quality, right? That's like a good thing. But yeah, let's do a little recap here as well. Little recap. So definitely look at the thumbnails. I think this one really surprised me. So definitely like redo thumbnails. Hey George, gonna have to bounce. Thank you again for the review. No worries. Thank you for being here as well, George. I hope you have a nice evening. Redo the thumbnails, especially from this one, because you're just way underselling the actual asset. What was the other thing? We talked about consistency here. And kind of the same thing here. Let's see, what would be number 2? Very broad, right? Like, consistent presentation. And that can be in terms of assets used. Assets used, in breakdown posts. Well, it's mostly assets used, honestly. And then the third one I would say is go for minimalistic. Sometimes less is more, you know? When it comes to, especially when it comes to like presenting and breaking down your work, you should be trying to put yourself as much as you can in the other person's shoes and what they want to see. And with a breakdown post, that's usually like, how did you approach stuff, right? Like, is UV layout good? Like, what's your poly count like? And where did you put polys? Like, the consistency there matters as well. So And that's all going to filter in with like the design approach, because then once you kind of thought about the way that the information that they require from you, you can just trim out all the fat again and then focus on presenting the stuff that they want to see, like in a good way. Right? So, yeah. Quick and easy wins with redoing the thumbnails. For sure, this ticket thing is not even gonna take you like an hour if you still have the files. That's gonna be like a very quick one. This one, if you wanted to level that up, you'll probably have to redo a little bit of the level and then cut out like the metal undersides, like the second renders, the second set of renders, and then you're good as well on that one. And then on this one, as we talked in the beginning, quick level up with the thumbnail. It's gonna do a good job as well. So yeah, I hope that helps, Jack, and thank you for putting your work up here as well. Really appreciate it. And then before we dive into this one, let me grab a glass of water. I'll be right back. We are back. All right. Let's have a look at your work, Elswake. So I have 2 of your portfolios up here. The reason why is just to make a quick comparison to your personal portfolio and then this portfolio, right? And I think this portfolio over here makes a very good impression of like purely the 3D side of things, right? So that's why I started looking for your portfolio, because I felt like this one was a little bit too messy in terms of like also how big it is and in your face it tries to be, and it doesn't feel like maybe that's because we're so used to ArtStation, you know? I don't know, but like it kind of feels like it's too overwhelming because of it. Whereas ArtStation kind of has it nailed down with like the amount of stuff that's on one page. Like you kind of get like a quicker overview. So I just wanted to point that out really quick. That's why I'm probably going to stick with the ArtStation portfolio over here. Before even diving into the quality of the work, right? I just wanted to bring that up. Because that's especially with the exodus from ArtStation, right? That we kind of went through with all the AI stuff before. There's a lot of people that kind of went through that, but then forget that ArtStation is very well designed in terms of like its user, and yeah, just gotta keep that in mind. Not saying that you can't use your personal portfolio either, right? It's just might also be like off the way that I prefer it, but also like the way that it kind of feels on the page right now. Combination of the two. Anyway, that aside, let's get a first impression. First impression is very good in terms of the assets, right? And like the way you present them as well. And I'm assuming, let me see if I'm right. I'm assuming that all these are from, yeah, so they're from that project that you made, right? Let's have a look. So this is an interesting one. Because it kind of goes back to the conversation that we were having about quality over quantity. Right? Where the quality is there. Right? Like I can see the love and the attention that you've put into it. But I'm wondering if you could have condensed it in a post, because it's all kind of for the same thing. So I don't know. I maybe... Yeah, I'm trying to think about like the way that I would have done it. Because I do the same thing too sometimes, right? Like you can especially see that with the Far Cry 6 work that I did. Like I also split it up into like multiple things. But I think an approach like this, where you kind of do it by theme, right? So the theme here is construction props. And then you got cleaning supplies. And then you got this paper lantern, which is, I don't know. I would probably move that into like miscellaneous or something. And then all of these three like could all be combined into one. Or maybe these two, because this is an udon vending machine, right? So I'm not gonna make too many choices here, but I think you can condense it down a little bit, where you just have like, hey, props that I made for this project. Not necessarily one post, but maybe multiple posts. And just try to condense it down, because I mean, it's very consistent in the way that you're kind of like showing things off, right? It's okay, it's a vending machine. And then we got like this gas dryer here as well, which is kind of the same way that you approach it. And then the coin washer is the same way that you approach it as well. It's just basically me trying to say that you can probably like put those in like one pack without having to bloat your entire portfolio. But yeah, like that's the first point here, like combine and optimize, right? Combine plus optimize. Yeah, that's the first thing that I will say. On to how well you sell your work though. I like all of these, you know? Like it's very interesting. Just seeing this, you know that it's game art. You know that it's going to be interesting to look at, because you have like a very good way of showing it off, where you have like nice nice compositions when it comes to like the collections of assets. Like this looks very interesting. You know, this also looks very interesting. I think the paper lantern, I don't know, there's not much that you can do with a paper lantern, right? Like it feels very just by itself. I think that's why I was so hesitant on that one. This one is also quite nice. Love the presentation there as well. And then, yeah, kind of talked about those three. But I like these mini compositions. I think you've done a really good job with those. So I love those mini compositions. They're looking really good. I think in that sense, if you have to optimize it a little bit, right? And this is what should call it? Like just nitpicking again. Just put this all the way up front. Right? So you don't have like that environment floating in the middle of all the assets. Just move that up. Be very interesting. And then you have the environment and then the rest of the props. Right? It's probably more about my OCD at this point than about like objective portfolio feedback, but let's go with it, right? Yeah. Yeah, no, I love the thumbnails that you're putting up. Very solid presentation as well. I love the work that we're doing here. What you could potentially do, this is an idea, right? I don't know if you're a fan of this idea or not. But you could almost go with something like, okay, this is called Night Street. Right? So you could have Night Street and then took. Environment, right? And you could do something like Night Street construction props, right? You know what I'm saying? So that on the thumbnail, it doesn't have to be big. Like maybe the stuff that I drew is too big. You could have like a slight indication that this is the environment and these are the props for it as well. So that could be potentially something to look into. Could be interesting. But yeah, let's have a look at the environment itself then. Right? I'm curious. This is a cool shot. This is a very cool shot. All these shots with the scaffolding, there's something with the lighting that you've done that makes them look very real. Like they have that realistic quality to them. What I would definitely say already about this one is this is a massive job, right? Like this is a massive environment, like the details and like the amount of props and like the amount of stuff that you've done into it. It's awesome. What I would do, especially because you've already split off all the assets to like other posts, I would cut them out of this post and make this purely about the environment itself. And that's also gonna cut down the amount of screenshots that you add in here, because, I mean, look at this. Right? There's a lot in here, and you can easily cut out like 75%, maybe 80% if you just cut out like all the stuff that you've already presented in another portfolio piece. And with this one, just purely focus on the environment itself, right? I think the opening shot is very interesting. I think some of these shots are better than the other. You gotta be careful that you don't add too many shots of the same thing as well, right? So you can definitely like optimize the amount of shots that are in here. This shot looks freaking amazing. I love this shot. This shot is really amazing as well. Not too sure about this one, you know? It could be like an interesting angle, but yeah. It's trimming the fat again, right? Like it's looking at the stuff that is objectively less polished than some of the other stuff. And cutting out like a major part of it. Because the people that are going to look at your portfolio usually don't have too much time, right? So kind of finding a balance between you're still showing off like all the incredible work that you've done, but also not making it feel like, oh, I'm scrolling through like all these images and like they're not different enough from each other, right? So like really cutting down on the amount of them. That would be my first move. And then think about the same thing that we said before, where you have the art first, and then you scroll down, and then you have like the breakdown. Breakdown second, right? So you kind of give people the opportunity to look at the art first, and then over time you just let them, you just show them like the breakdown. This is the thing. Point out something that I find awesome is the way that you've done the lighting here. Freaking love it. Like just that, like if you could like squeeze that, you know, like if that is like its own little section, that looks real. Like the detail that you put on there looks freaking amazing. Just in contrast with the story itself, the story needs a little bit more work, right? Because that's where it kind of breaks down. Yeah, this is a crazy amount of stuff that you put in, though. Great job on that. Yeah, and also the references again. I don't think you need references. Like, all these amazing references are freaking cool, you know? For, like, environment art nerds like us. But, yeah. I don't think for, like, a portfolio purpose, they don't serve anything. Oh, CI is saying your art is amazing! Hell yeah. Yeah, I agree. You know, as much as I'm trying to give feedback, like, I love the work that's on display here. And I keep saying it, like, some of these shots, like, I go back to it again, right? Like, this one right here, that's awesome. That's an awesome shot. Like, I love that one. Yeah. So yeah, hopefully that helps a little bit, just about the structure of everything. And I think if you do that, it's going to make your portfolio, like, way easier and more pleasurable to view at, right? Because everything kind of has like an order and not everything is like just a massive amount of like pictures. But saying that, let's have a look at some of the other stuff, right? Yeah, so this is an interesting one because you've got a very clean presentation, but what you could also do is drag in the road or the curb or whatever you want from the environment and use that in the presentation here to kind of ground it in reality, literally, by just adding a floor to it, right? And I think you can do some interesting stuff with that here as well. And that could be something worth trying out. And then maybe even think about doing a little bit of a breakdown shot, like how you used your textures, and I guess you kind of have that in Marmoset. But I'm gonna be honest, and this probably applies to like whenever other people are looking at your portfolio too. Like a renderer like this is always going to be way slower than just having like a quick overview of like all your maps and like the triangle count and whatever you want to add on there. It's going to be way quicker to look at it. And again, you're trying to remove as many hurdles as you can from when someone's actually looking at your portfolio, right? Wireframes. Gotta watch out for some of the bevels. Like some of the bevels are... You got too much geometry on some of the bevels where you don't really need it, right? But that's, again, it's details. Rest of it looks quite nice. Super clean. Great stuff. Great stuff. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that's the thing that I would say. Maybe a little bit more breakdown. Maybe think about like the presentation of the props a little bit more, where you can kind of ground them into whatever, into the world itself, not whatever. But the attention to detail here. I love this presentation, by the way. Very unique. This one over here. This is awesome, you know? Like, very clean, optimized, especially for small stuff like this. Very good work. This is awesome as well. The plastic looks good. Doing all the labeling too. Yeah, so great stuff. I think you did ask some questions as well, right? Let me have a look in the chat as well. Yeah, you asked a bunch of questions here, so I don't want to skip over those. And I'm just reading from like our community chat on the left here. I want to know, in your opinion, if I'm even hireable at this point with the portfolio. I think you are. I think you are. But you got to be careful with this, right? Like, and I'm always hesitant to say this because it's not up to me, because I'm not hiring you, right? When you're looking to get hired, what you're basically doing is you're asking other people of your opinion on your art. And I don't have technically don't have an like full-time open position right now, right? So it to a certain degree, what I'm trying to say, it doesn't really matter if I say yes or no. Just fire out your portfolio if you see like an open position, and let the other person on the other side make that decision for you, right? And let's say you've reached out to like a massive amount of people already, right? Like a massive amount of studios already. And you're still getting rejected, then it might be time to reflect a little bit and try to be objective about your work and see what you can improve, right? Yeah. All I'm trying to say is that it's not only up to me. 2, what should I focus my attention more on if I want to improve my portfolio in terms of what recruiters may be looking for? I think that's what I mentioned, right? It's just making it more concise. That's already going to help recruiters like a lot. And then also trying to see if you can level up the presentation of it, where it's not just all like on a black background, but you're doing something more than you're currently doing. At least, because the thing is, like, the presentation itself is actually quite clean, and like it's really good, especially in the thumbnails, like we discussed in the beginning. But I feel like you can experiment a little bit and like try like to level it up to like another level and set yourself apart from the competition, right? Yeah, and then on your third part, which was about your last project, what do you think about the presentation of it? What is lacking and what can be improved? I think, yeah, I don't want to reiterate too much, so I think a lot of it was just the amount of stuff that you're trying to show off, where it's unnecessarily, when it's unnecessary, like the amount of stuff, like the amount of screenshots that are in here is probably like the biggest blocker currently. There's just so much to look at. And what I would probably want to see... It's a good question. I would probably want to see you do a smaller environment which is focused on a story. Right? Because this is all very... The way that I look at this, it's all very generic... very generic environment stuff, where you're not really you're not really showing off like a specific story, right? And the reason why I say that is because as a level artist, when you're working on a game and you're making like these environments yourself, what it's usually about is that you can work together with people from narrative to actually bring a story to life with the assets that you've gotten in your hands or make yourself, right? So I would love to see you take like all this creative energy and like pour it into like a smaller environment that is trying to say something. That's probably what I would say. But like all the stuff on here looks great, right? Again, like I like how you've done like little rotational maneuvers. Like some of the stuff here, like I point out some stuff, right? Like these two boxes, they're not the same. These two boxes, well, they're the same box, but like slightly rotated them, you know, and like adding like a little bit of character to everything. You can obviously push that a little bit more, but yeah. Yeah, I would love to see you make like a smaller environment where you can really push this up to the next quality level as well. Because the thing that you had to give up here is that you didn't really go too deep in terms of like the quality level and like the logic of the space and like decals on the floor where people spilled like water and all that kind of stuff, because you were focused on the bigger picture, right? So I would love to see like a smaller environment. Cool. Yeah, thank you so much for the questions as well, Els. I really appreciate it. Yeah, great stuff. So let's do a little recap here, right? Do a little recap. Wait, did you just change your background or was it already that one? Yeah, I love it in that case. So yeah, recap. Number one is kind of what we talked about in the beginning, right? Condense and optimize. This is talking about the amount of stuff that's on your portfolio, and that you're basically showing off like two things. You're basically showing them off twice. That's a better way of saying it. Where you have the assets broken down in the main post, but then also as a separate post. And it's gonna do both of them justice if you just call them out from the main post and only have them as like little breakdowns. But then also on top of that, like try to clump some of the smaller stuff together, right? It's about higher quality or like less post in this case, instead of like trying to spread them out with it's basically all the same stuff. All the same environment, right? So yeah, number two is push a presentation, right? That's also something we talked about. And that is mainly referring to the black background of like the assets themselves. And maybe also think about like putting more geometry in certain assets where you go like way more into detail. And that's also going to lead into the third point. Is attention to detail. And with attention to detail, I'm specifically talking about what I just mentioned, where if we look at an individual prop, for example, the back of the prop is just going to be flat. Where in most cases that works, right? But usually for the level art positioned, we try to make them in like a 3D fashion where you could potentially use it as like a rotated prop as well. And also pay an extra attention to let me see if I got like an example here. I think this vending machine might be like a perfect one, right? It's a box, right? And you can probably, if you start looking at these machines in real life, you can probably do so much more with this rather than them just being a box, right? You can change up the silhouette like a little bit. Like it's a thing that I call like giving character to like a prop, right? Where you're kind of doing that on the texturing like in a stunning way already. I think that part of it you got covered. It's more in the geometry where you give like slight offsets to certain parts, right? Like I don't know how this is made. Like if like in a very exaggerated way, like this comes out a little bit. Like it has like a crooked top. And maybe maybe some other parts are damaged as well, where you just slightly push the geo around. Just a little bit. Let me see if I can bring out like another prop here. Right, so you have like the back on this one. Probably like fully flat. Well, apart from like this inset. You can just do a little bit more with that kind of stuff. Like this stuff is nice. This is going the right direction where you have like the electrical wires going around it. And as I'm saying, like the base pass and like your texturing is already going in the right direction. You can just push it a little bit more, give it a little bit more character. And that's what I mean with the attention to detail. Because I think I didn't want to generalize, right? I think with the texturing, it's already going into like a very good direction. And with some of the props, you're nailing it already. It's just pushing it to the next level, right? That can make like a difference. So yeah, good luck with that, Als. And yeah, let me know if you need some help, you know? You're in the right community for that. So let us help you if we can. Cool. Thank you so much. And I think, let's have a look. Did I miss someone? Emmanuel, Jacob. It's gonna be next. Packfound Dev, did you make the labels or can you get them from somewhere? That's in reference to this scene, right? I think from what Alice told me, like she made everything herself, or they made everything herself. I agree with everything you said, Tim. Thank you so much for the detailed review. No, thank you so much for posting it as well. I love looking at this stuff. And, I mean, your stuff looks amazing already, so... I'm happy to help, you know? Good luck. But yeah, I think everything made herself. Or themselves. Gotta be careful with that. So, yeah, this looks nice. Just the amount of love and attention put in, like in the tiniest detail, right? I love this kind of stuff. So good. Awesome job on all this. And I know that we kind of glanced over it, right? Oh, sorry. Sorry. See, that's what happens. So sorry about that. Yeah, great job. There was another thing here. Route 1, am I worthy of a job, Tim? Don't know. Don't see your portfolio on the list, Route 1. So, can't tell. I agree with Tim. It's a very big scene, but very cool. Yeah. Yeah, I think... Yeah. We kind of talked about it before, right? So I don't want to keep repeating it, but I agree. Very cool scene. There's some very cool shots in there. Awesome work. Okay, I think we got the last one on the list here. Oh, someone added their portfolio right before the stream. Let's see if we get to it. Doo-doo-doo. Yeah, okay. So, Emmanuel, let's have a look. First impressions. Got no banner? How dare you? No, it's actually totally fine. So 3D environment artist, prop artist, ArcFizz. First thing that really stood out to me is like, why is this pixelated? Is that just an issue on my side? It's no, it's still pixelated. That's so weird. So yeah, that might be worth looking into. It's also a very interestingly mixed portfolio. We got a couple of prompts, and then this looks more like an ad or something. Very curious to look into it. Yeah, I think thumbnail can definitely be improved on this one. Right. You just cut off like half of the prop. This is a very, very good thumbnail, very clean one. But don't really have anything to say on that. That's a check mark from me. And this one, you can probably like that one better. This one is kind of eh. Let's have a look. I'm kind of curious to just jump in here because there's like a mixture of stuff. So I want to see what this broken thumbnail is all about for the first thing. Unreal Engine 5 with Quixel Megascans. Okay, so this is more like a compositional thing then. Why? Yeah. Okay. Definitely fix that thumbnail then. I mean, if you made the scene yourself, you have access to like all the high-risk screenshots anyway, right? So might as well make like a proper thumbnail for it. I just realized that my face is in the way for like most of it. Let me just squish this up a little bit. Okay, so this thumbnail over here is so blurry compared to the rest of it. Yeah, that would definitely be like an immediate fix. That's just like a quick fix. Not gonna take too long. But yeah, let's have a look at the carpenter drill. Very clean. Like the approach here. Six days ago. There is some stuff that we can point out here, right? But like if you focus on the portfolio aspect of it, I like that you chose for like more in-depth shots, right? Because that shows that you're not afraid to go like in-depth with some of this. However, when you do that, you gotta be careful that you give enough geo to actually warrant like this holding up at this distance. Right? So if you're going up close like this, I want to see that smooth as well. It'll be nice and smooth then. Because the rest of it looks kind of smooth, right? Yeah. That looks kind of smooth. Yeah, so you gotta be wary about that. Like, just add enough geo. Or up close, right? Close-ups. Definitely. And if you're zooming in, I think you have a slight issue with like a seam over here. Make sure to double check all of that stuff too. And I think even if we scroll down, I'm assuming that the that the normals here should be inverted. The reason why I say that is because now the letters look like they're coming out, where they should probably be stamped into the metal, right? Because you have a couple of places where that happens, like this. That looks nice. You know, that's what I would expect, where they actually like stamp it in, like little metal bits. Dink dink. Yeah, this one. I think if you wanna get a quick win here, think about a rim light. A rim light is gonna help you make your prop stand apart from the background that it's on. And it's also kind of a risky choice in that manner to have a dark prop on a dark background. That's why you see so many metallic props on like white backgrounds, because you get that nice contrast between the two. Could be something to think about. Or do the approach where you have like a rim light that adds like a rim to the edges of the object. And that's also going to help your work stand out from like the background of it. Yeah, this is cool though. Like it. Like it, like it. Interesting. So my first thought here is we're seeing an immediate jump in quality level, where you have like lots of nice detail over here, lots of attention to detail on this prop. And then we go to this, and it is from a year ago, I think, right? But that's something to be aware of, that you're very consciously aware of, that this almost feels like it's been a year ago. Because yeah, it definitely has a jump in there. Let's have a look. Coffee. I would for, this is my assumption, right? That this is for like motion graphics or something like that, like an advertisement. It kind of looks like it with the flashy colors. Not really game dev relevant, right? So I would probably cut out this one, honestly. Probably cut this one out, because it's also like you're not saying anything here, like it's just coffee, right? So yeah, not really any value that you're bringing towards like a potential recruiter that's looking at this, right? Cyberpunk Thermal Katana. Coffee! Yes, Paul. I don't have any anymore. Oh, no. I do. A little bit. It's cold coffee, though. It's iced coffee, sorry. Yeah, this katana looks nice. You know? Again, we're trying to present game art, so if you want to get, again, it's about hurdles, right? Like you want to remove as many hurdles in the way of a recruiter thinking about hiring you, right? So what is actually happening is a recruiter is going to come to your art station, and let's say they land on this post. They're like, okay, cool visuals, I can get behind it, but then there's nothing here that indicates that this is game art, right? Because from all I can tell, this might all be pure geometry. Right? Like Arnold and Maya. So this is probably, yeah, this is probably going to be pure geometry with like Arnold specific materials on top of it. So this isn't even game ready. So this, if you're being really honest and brutal about this, this has barely any relevance to a game artist position, right? Let's say you want to do proper environment art. And I say almost none because it still shows that you can model, right? It still shows that you have like an eye for materials and the way that you can combine them and all that stuff. but that's still there. But the actual workflow that you're going through for like a game art prop or a game art portfolio, there's nothing of that here. So think about that as well. Or it is something to think about. Yeah, I think same can be applied here, even though we can look at the marmoset render, right? And probably go to topology. Yeah, this has a lot of topology that can just be like optimized. Like anything that doesn't contribute to the geometry, just get rid of it, right? Like a lot of this stuff, all those loops, they can just go. You probably don't need that many loops around here either. Yeah. At least we can see something game dev related in this one, right? So I'm not trying to be like facetious or something like that here, right? But it's important to know that if you're applying for like a game artist position, you need to show that you can do game art, or else they're taking a risk on like even talking to you, right? Because let's say based on the stuff that we've seen here, we set you up for an interview. The questions are all gonna be around like, hey, can you do game art? Like the stuff that you're putting on display looks good, but I actually want to see if you can do game art and have an understanding of how this all works, right? Because if you don't, then it becomes really hard for someone to like employ you, right? UB5 landscape. This looks visually interesting, but I assume that you've done none of this apart from the landscape, right? So again, nothing wrong with that. It's just you're working towards a different goal, and in this case, it's you're doing just a composition thing, right? Or getting used to the engine. That's what you're showing off here. So yeah. Always keep that in mind. Same here as well. Okay, so I know that I've been really critical about this one. Let's see if we can do like a little recap section here. So recap number 1 is show game art, right? That was like the most common thing here. Show game art. Number 2. I would probably say, yeah, it goes in line with the first point though. Like we're gonna try to optimize this portfolio for a second, right? This looks more like an ad, right? So don't need that. This is rendered in Arnold, so technically, question mark? Let's add a question mark. This is a cool exercise, but it doesn't really add any knowledge of like what you can do in the industry itself, or like the workflow itself, right? So let me. Oh no, I can't. No. Yeah, so this jungle path, which like I covered with half my face, is kind of the same thing as this one, right? It's not really showing. It's a nice composition exercise, but it's not really showing that you can do the workflow. So these both are comp exercises, but they don't add any like significant value to your portfolio. That's what I'm trying to say. Because a composition exercise with all the tools that are currently in Unreal Engine, it's kind of easy to do, you know? And the easier something is, the lower the skill gap for it is, right? So if people want to do the same kind of stuff that you're doing here with these compositional exercises, they are good to train your skill of like composition, right? But like it's so approachable to like a bunch of people that it's is debatable if it should be on your portfolio, yes or no. But I think something like this adds a lot of value, right? Because you show the whole workflow, you show that you can texture, you can model, you can keep optimization in mind, you can do all that stuff. So this is awesome. This kind of goes into the same vein, but it's old and it kind of shows its age, especially compared to the skiller piece that you added right next to it. So maybe like remove this one as well. And again, like if you compare these two, like that kind of goes. And then this is ArcViz that's rendered in Arnold, I think, again, so that has no relevancy here. I'm trying to be really crude, right? Like you're trying to optimize your portfolio for game art. So yeah, gotta show game art when it comes to this, right? And like a lot of stuff is either out of date or it's not relevant to game art. So cut out, trim all the fat, and then rebuild from there and like add from there when you have something high quality to add. Again, not about quantity, it's about quality. And I would still keep these composition exercises here, right? But I would definitely phase them out once you're making like more props or maybe make dioramas or make your own environments, right? You could even say like composition exercises, make that like one portfolio piece. And then all the experimental stuff that you do where you make like nice compositions, just add them in there, you know? And it becomes like a thread of like nice compositions. That could be a good way of doing it. Yeah, that might be interesting. So yeah, let's get back to the recap. So show game art, optimize your portfolio. Portfolio, right? A bit like the composition thread. Composition. Hey Timothy, are you accepting portfolios for review? Yeah. I don't know if we're gonna get to it tonight, because I still have to do one more. But I will definitely keep it in mind for the next time, though. So yeah, what is number 3 on this one? What is number 3? And also, thank you for sharing the link, Paul. Did that work, by the way? Because it's not showing up in my chat. I don't know why. Me. Don't know if that worked. Let me. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Like I can't see that link showing up. Like because you said here's a link and then it has nothing next to it. I don't know what happened there. YouTube stuff is confusing. Yeah, but thanks, Paul. But yeah, number 3. What was that? You can improve the thumbnail of this one, right? Like of this katana, and then maybe keep it on your portfolio. Like you got like the nice side angle that you could show off. That could be interesting. But honestly, I think 1 and 2 are all you need. I think like just show more game art, optimize your portfolio with like combining stuff together and just cutting out all the fluff and focus on high quality and just keep building on there. I think 1 and 2 is all you're gonna need. And from the quality that we're seeing with this first shot here, with this first what is it, like the hand drill, if you can keep that up and even keep building on top of it, like yeah, just keep doing that and you're gonna have a really good portfolio, guaranteed. So keep that up. Keep that up, Emmanuel. Great stuff. All right, not Emmanuel, but let's switch over to Manuel. Oh. Next up in line. And I think this is gonna be the last one over here. Yeah, honestly, let's take some time with this one. And then we'll do some more portfolio reviews. Like I do these like on a monthly basis. So we're probably gonna do more of them in the future, like next month. So the last one for today is gonna be Emmanuel. Let's talk about the first impression here. This looks interesting. Looks interesting. Obviously, gotta rep the Beyond Extent Under Siege challenge. It's just recently finished. And then I'm curious about these two, how good they actually are, but the thumbnails themselves don't really convince me yet, right? So these two are like not convinced. Like just the presentation is not there on these thumbnails. This one could be very interesting though. I'm very curious about this one. But the main thing that I hate with that one is just the black bars, you know? It's like you're wasting like 20% of your thumbnail just for the black bars. And I think it also shows some laziness with the presentation. I don't know what's the better way to put it, but like that you kind of were rushing to get the thing done and like you skipped the whole step of making a thumbnail. Kind of what it feels like. I'm not saying that that is it. Kind of what it feels like. But yeah, let's have a look. Shall we? Yeah, shall we start with that one? Okay, I'm curious. Project for Vertex School, assigned to make buildings with modular pieces and trim sheets, a model to piece in Maya, blah blah blah. Environments around the building, make some mega scans. Okay, so the environments around the building is mega scan stuff. And tropical beach pack. Okay. Interesting. First thing that jumps to mind is just gonna simplify it. Logic. Like the reason why I bring up logic is because we're dealing with houses from Havana, right? Like very colonial types of buildings on sand, and there seems to be like a quickly poured like asphalt road that kind of surrounds them. The scene doesn't feel real because of that. Like usually if you have it like close to the beach, you would have a, don't know what the word is in English, honestly. You would have like a section where it goes up to a ramp, and then it's like a concrete ramp, and then it goes into the city, right? Like you would have a transition where you would have the beach would go up, and then you have like the beach wall, and that's where the buildings would begin, right? And then this is the street, like a nice little car on it. And then this is where the buildings would begin, right? So that's what we're kind of used to, and probably if you look at Havana, because I had to spend a lot of time looking at Havana for Far Cry, so probably the seawall itself is going to be like massive because it's 2 lanes and there's also like a lot of pedestrian areas. This doesn't, in contrast between it, like doesn't feel real, right? So what we're trying to do as environment artists, we're trying to convert real world scenarios with like a new spin ideally, and we try to convert that to like environments that people can play around with, right? To be honest, I was focused on the building and kind of rushed composition. Well, that's the issue, right? Like rushing it, never do it. Like take the time to properly present it, because the reason the reason why I bring all this up is because this kind of stuff is kind of destroying the hard work that you put in with those buildings. I think if you don't want to do any of it, like just keep it on like a flat plane or something like that, like flat grayscale plane presented as like, hey, look, these are just some buildings that I modeled, and the focus is on the buildings rather than on something rushed that's surrounding it and kind of destroying the buildings themselves, right? So yeah, take your time. This stuff is important. And then also with the presentation here, think about what we've seen today, and you can probably draw some lessons from that as well, where this might be simple, but not in the correct way, right? I know I'm kind of saying it as it is right now, right? But that's because I see the potential of it, and I see what you're trying to do. You just need to take that extra time and like really present it well. It's almost like, I don't know, even though it's like more common these days, like we're kind of brushing out games, right? And people are going to remember the broken state of them. I don't want that to happen to art, right? Like, take your time with it. Like, present it well. If something feels weird, like, try to fix it. Don't just be like, just want to get it out. Just get it done. Best way to do there, take a break. Maybe start working on something else. And then once you've completely detached from the work that you've struggled with, go back to it. Because yeah, like the main components here, I see what you're trying to do, right? And I appreciate it. Like the components are there, they're just not there in a logical way. Yeah, gotta take your time with that stuff. Got an ammo crate as well. Yeah, the presentation is kind of basic here, right? Think about some of the things that we said before today. Is also try to present game art where I would probably love to see a breakdown, right? Where you can have a breakdown with like, hey, these are all my maps, you know, like this is my UV, this is the base color, blah 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 blah. And then you can have like the asset here, and then have like a wireframe on top of it, and then say like, oh, this is how many triangles there are in this. Yeah. Game art presentation. It doesn't have to be much, right? Like I'm not expecting, or well, it's not about me really. I don't think people expect you to add like a lot of it, but just like one simple sheet, simple presentation sheet can do a lot of wonders. Yeah, and then also in this case, think about the lighting too. Think about 3-point light setups. That's my go-to way. It's like a very standardized way of like lighting anything really. But that's why it kind of works. And then once you got the gist of that, you can always build upon it in the future, right? It's kind of the same stuff. References, same thing that I said to other people, right? Not really needed. Let's have a look at the Zen temple though. This is cool. This is cool. Voltages from mega scans, no big deal. Yeah. This is cool. The shot is kind of interesting. Yeah, again, same thing here, right? Like, how did you approach this, like the game art type of stuff? But yeah, this is a neat little environment, you know? Like, this is not something that you see like every day, so I feel like there's like a very creative thought process that went behind this. Yeah, I like it. Cool. Very interesting setup. Very interesting and very contrasting light, right? That's also doing a lot of good stuff. Yeah. Very interesting. Gotta watch out with that foliage. You gotta do some normal trickery where usually you want to point like all the normals of the grass up so that they shade evenly. And then you don't get that harsh shadow that you get on the grass right now. Also, don't forget to take off like tangent space normals in the grass material. It's also gonna help with that. Yeah. Some quick wins that I want to point out is maybe for the future, you know, think about scale and the relationship of everything to each other, right? Because these chains are pretty big. I know that they're keeping up like a massive platform, but yeah, you can probably make those smaller. I think in this case, it's not that bad overall because you have this additional change which do have like a good scale. So it's not, if they all had the same scale, then yeah, it would look kind of weird. But these smaller scale change, they're doing the saving on this one. Props and fire VFX. Yeah, cool. I think the presentation here, again, is just a little lacking. Wait, so what did you actually do? So created the props, the windmill in the background, and a smaller fire and the door smoke. Before the rules were changed, that allowed the... Yeah, exactly. Sorry about that. That was a very in-the-moment decision because we knew that it wasn't the role of an environment artist to make VFX packs anyway. Yeah. Think about the presentation here, right? Like presentation, probably if you want to do something like this, then keep it like very simple and focus on the props. Also think about the detail on the props as well. Like try to go above and beyond next time when you're making props, like mind all the little changes and like really give them some character, right? Like give them character, make them pop a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, overall, let's zoom out, right? I think let's have a look. I think there's a lot of quick wins that you can do, especially on the presentation side, right? With on the team challenge, like the barrel presentation, you can definitely level that up by just having like a gray plane underneath it, and then with like a very simple light setup. There's a lot of examples out there now where you can do something very simple and still have it like look pleasing. And you can then also apply the same thing to the presentation of the props on this scene as well. And again, I think most of it is going to come down to the lighting. So I would honestly pull a focus on, if we do a little recap over here. Recap. I think the main part here is going to be lighting. From all the stuff that I've seen, well, apart from this one, right? I think this one is a solid piece when it comes to lighting. Like all of it, especially in the presentation shots, can be very, very much improved by just doing like better lighting on top of it. Like it can make and break like a prop, right? So pay more attention to that. And kind of going in the same direction. But with the previous point with the lighting specifically, but also the composition, right? like on the team challenges, just having like a massive landscape with like a couple of puddles, probably not the most exciting way to show off like the props that you've made. So I'll bring up Jack's work, I think. You usually don't have to do much, right? Like this. Like, very clean, to the point, fill the frame, and that's it. You know, it doesn't have to be much. It can be like very, very still. Like if I wanted to do like a minor improvement here, I would probably bevel like this little edge of the wall. But that's it, right? It doesn't have to be much. So yeah, I would think about that with your presentation and the breakdowns that you want to do. And find your own approach in it. It doesn't have to be someone else's, but that's always a good starting point. You don't have to reinvent the wheel like over and over. And then number 3. Is there a number 3? Yeah, so this is an interesting one. So I wanted to say like trim the fat, but I don't think there's anything yet that we can trim at this point. Like it's still very much in like the same kind of range overall. Especially like give an example with what I mean, right? If we look at the stuff here, the assets here, I know that it's a team challenge, right? Completely different kind of thing going on, but it's on the portfolio. So if you compare these assets to these assets, there's not that big of a difference in the terms of approach and like the weathering and like the quality of it, right? The presentation definitely took like a step up, even though we just said that we can push it way up. Yeah, in terms of like the pure asset quality, it's relatable. So I don't think there's anything here that we can trim out yet. But again, like if we apply number 1 and 2, I think the presentation of your portfolio overall is going to be better for it. So yeah, in this case, let's just say no number 3 at this point. Oh, maybe... Trying to think. Because it's more about this number 1, right? Even though I like... Yeah, more breakdowns would be a good one, but I kind of lump that in with this one here, right? Like more breakdowns. And I'm thinking about this first one, where it's not necessarily like a gameplay space, right? It's more like a pretty picture. Sometimes it's nice to do, right? But it kind of goes in line with like the game art angle of it, where it could be nicer to think about them as like an actual gameplay space. Even when we're doing like very abstract like compositions that look really, really interesting. So maybe think about that approach for your next project, where yeah, working as a game environment artist is not really about like making things pretty per se. That's like a big concept of it. But it's also about like telling a story and like keeping the gameplay in mind as well as you're doing it. So we did also talk about that in relevancy to a person before Al's, right? Like when we were looking at their portfolio, they kind of had the same issue where it is like a big place, and it maybe a bit more catered towards like gameplay, but something like this doesn't really have like a game art application. So try to stay... I was about to say try to stay within that lane, but that's probably not a good way of saying it. Keep it game related. Related. That scene was a bit of a deviation. Yeah, I can tell. And like purely visually, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like there's nothing wrong with that visually. It's just, it comes down to the point where it's a composition and like lighting exercise. Which is, again, fine by itself, but it's not showing like the whole game art workflow and what you will be doing as like an environment artist. And I plan on doing more game related stuff. That's awesome. Looking forward to seeing it. Gonna be great. And also, yeah, Manuel, thank you so much for putting your stuff up on here. I really appreciate it. And best of luck. If there's anything else that I can help with, just let me know. And thank you for participating in the team challenge. Awesome job on that. Okay, I think that's it. I'm gonna sit down again. Standing up. Hold on, I'll be right back. What? We're back. Thanks a lot. No worries. I hope that was helpful to everyone in the chat as well. Kind of following along. What was the most interesting thing that you learned today? You're still hopping about in the chat while we kind of go through the end of the stream. I feel like it would be interesting to maybe condense all that we're saying here, or like all that I'm saying, into like a list of like most common things that I see. That would be, the more that I do this, like the more that I think about it, right? Where you could have like one place where you can just look at like, hey, look, these are some common portfolio issues. And just have that with like examples and like kind of how to fix it kind of thing. Huh. Might be an interesting one. So yeah, saying the continued importance of lighting. Yeah. Yeah, like honestly, I mean, I was never good at lighting too, especially when I had my student portfolio, and arguably I'm still okay-ish now, right? I kind of stick to most of the basics and kind of feel out what feels good. Yeah, it's tricky, right? Because we just want to do environment art, and then lighting is usually done by like someone else, like in the industry. But oh god, yeah, so annoying, you know. And it can literally make or break a scene, like just having good lighting in there. Whoa. Prioritizing quality over quantity? Oh yeah, that's a big one as well. Yeah, because like we oftentimes feel bad, right? When we don't have enough on our portfolio, we kind of want to pad it out so that we at least have like that one first line. But it doesn't matter, you know, like all the things that you're doing there with all that padding is you make your entire portfolio weaker just by the fear of not having enough on your portfolio, right? But it's not about the amount of stuff, but it's about the quality of the stuff that's on there. Learning how to present stuff in a structured order with thumbnails and key areas that can make environment art stand out. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I mean, a thumbnail is literally like the gate to your art, right? Like it's the door. If people don't open that door, then no one's gonna see your art. That's why thumbnails are important, right? Like especially for people that don't know you. And yeah, if you want to stand out, like you gotta make your thumbnail interesting, because no one's gonna click on like a non-interesting thumbnail. So yeah, saying that's a good idea. Lists of common portfolio things. It would be a good way to encourage people to self-critique or for interviews to be able to point out where you're strong and what needs work. Okay, let me make a note of that. And that's probably also going to help me when I do future portfolio reviews as well. Because then I need to think through like the whole process as I'm doing it. Do/don'ts for portfolio. Maybe even turn that into like a refresh for our YouTube channel as well. Okay, made a note. We'll see if we can make it happen. Awesome. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm gonna pop out. Let me switch to this before we head out. Oh, we got the chat on the right as well. Forgot I did that. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here. Happy Portfolio Day, everyone. Go and share and like and all that good stuff on your buddies' portfolios. I'm probably gonna do like another spree like in a bit. Just go through the Beyond Extent Twitter account. And just see if I can snoop out people from the community that I can retweet. But yeah, thank you all so much for being here, and we'll see you tomorrow, because it's Work in Progress Wednesday. So I'll be back tomorrow evening. Busy. All right, speak to you tomorrow, people. Bye bye.